What's up, everybody? Welcome to your spoiler-free review of Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the pride of Long Island, Colin Moriarty.
It's good to be here with you today.
It's good to be here with you today as well. And over there, the pure one, Tim Gettys.
Let Tim host.
Let Tim host, indeed.
Yes.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever caught one of our review discussions before, you know the deal. If you haven't seen one before, let me bring you up to speed. We said it before, spoiler free. We also have a list of things we're not allowed to mention for PlayStation as part of our embargo. So no spoilers here. You can watch this without ruining Uncharted. Of course, if you want to go in blank and not have anything skewing you, you should probably not watch the video. But we're not going to tell you any story elements, anything that would like ruin the game for you, If you want to have the game ruined for you, Monday we're posting the spoiler cast, which I always say, don't watch right away. Hold on until you've beaten the game, and when you're ready to discuss it with people, there will be a giant video on youtube.com/kindafunnygames for your perusal. Tim.
Yes.
What did you think of Uncharted 4?
I'm dropping a bomb here, Greg.
Yeah.
Just setting it off right.
Okay.
Now you, well-known, IGN.com, giving a 10 out of 10 to Uncharted 3.
Correct, I did that.
Now you, Colin Moriarty, well-known, well-documented on IGN.com, giving Last of Us 10 out of 10. If I was at IGN.com reviewing Uncharted 4, we don't give numbers.
We don't give scores on Kinda Funny.
I would give it a 10 out of 10.
You give it a 10 out of 10 on the oration scale?
I would.
Okay.
It's fucking,
8 out of 10.
It's good. It's damn good.
A 10 out of 10. It's good.
Oh, yeah. Great. It's more than great. It's
Yeah.
like,
You think it's a masterpiece?
I think it's a masterpiece. I think that's
Gotcha.
the best way to possibly put it. I think that it is a perfect example of what a video game can be.
Very interesting. Colin?
I think it's a fantastic game. So just for clarity, I'm on chapter 18. I think that you said there are 21 chapters. So,
22? It's right there.
So I haven't beaten it yet. But I'm about 13 hours in, which I feel like is a long time.
It is long. It's longer than most Uncharted.
It's just a long. I just feel like I dilly-dally a lot.
Well, then
in
you want to
Uncharted.
go get the collections, the journals, all the stuff. I understand.
I think the game gets better and better.
Yes.
I have problems with some mechanical elements in the game that make it feel not Uncharted-like. And that I think, I still think maybe it's hard to say whether I think 3 is still the best because I've not beaten this one yet, so I've not seen the climax or whatever. But
Don't forget we're doing a Gamescast topic on that.
But I do think that it's fantastic. It's definitely, at this point, one of PS4's best games for sure.
Of course.
Probably its best exclusive. Maybe the most beautiful game I've ever played. So I think that what this reminds me of is I don't understand how Naughty Dog is so much better at this than everyone else. That's what I like when I keep seeing these, and it's not mechanically better than a lot of games because it's certainly not. It's not even at the top echelon of third-person shooters by any stretch of the imagination mechanically. But in terms of everything else, I don't understand why other studios just can't do this.
Sure.
And continue not to be able to do this. And so I think it's quite the achievement is what I would call it.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys, of course. I think that for me, it builds so well. And I think, again, we're spoiler-free reviews, we've said before. What comes back to me, and what I was talking about you when we first both started playing that first night, was the fact that you were like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like an Uncharted game to me right now. And what I kept saying is, for me, it feels like, and this sounds like an insult, but stick with me, grown-up Uncharted. I feel like the first 3 were that pulp adventure. I went and watched my Uncharted 3 review before we sat down to do this because I wanted to get in that headspace. And first off, to remember how great Uncharted 3 looked, and then to look at it on the screen compared to this, like, holy fucking shit. That game looks like garbage compared to this now.
Crazy.
But to sit there is like, this is a game where there's all these ramifications on the choices and the actions of before, and suddenly we're left with this. It's a somber Uncharted, and it's not to say the humor isn't there. It's not to say the characters aren't there. It's not to say the things you don't love and connect with Uncharted aren't there. But there's also this weight to it, and you know what I mean. Like we've talked, it's been shown before of whatever of like Nate setting out on this journey and like how much does he really want to be on it and stuff like that. And I feel it as a player, and it's a very interesting thing. But what I was saying is it ramps so well. I remember playing those first few hours and being like, okay. It's a bit slow, like not in a bad way, but it's definitely slower than other Uncharted's in terms of an opening and where I'm going and how this is going. But then the hits start coming and you start tumbling. And I'm right now at chapter 17, I guess, 17 or 18 on my crushing playthrough. So my second playthrough of the game. And I'm in this weird loop where I love it even more the more I play it, which is not what I expected. I started off in that crushing thing and I was like, I'm not even sold if I'm going to go for this platinum with the speed run and a couple other things that are, again, we assume real trophies from that Imager leak because they still can't ping on the server. But the more, and like I was playing these crushing battles last night where it was like, fuck this, fuck you, Naughty Dog, you pieces of garbage. And then, but it was like, all right, take a breath, went back in. I wanted to keep playing. And even when it was like being cheap and killing me, it reminded me how much I enjoyed it playing the first time when it was just the normal playthrough of Uncharted.
Yeah, man. I said this to you earlier, but to me, like, I love the Fast and Furious franchise. I always talk about it, but Fast 5 is, the jokes aside, when the series got good.
Yeah.
You know? And that was because it had all of those adventures before, and it was when it became about family, and it wasn't just about cars.
Yeah.
And it was getting all these characters you love and putting them together in a way that really made sense and upped the ante and made it a heist movie. And I think that Uncharted 4 is the Fast 5 of Uncharted. It takes all the
Oh,
dude,
no.
dude. You can stand with me on this.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
I mean, for anybody that's seen Fast 5, they know what I'm talking about here. It's like it is the best of. It is taking all these things that
it's tying all the threads together, and what you love about the franchise, here it is.
Yes,
and that's
exactly.
also, and I think I mean, Uncharted 4 does so many things the way that I talked about why I love Uncharted 3 so much, is that it is an unexpected game, and it is making callbacks to this, and it isn't the exact same thing. It's investigating these relationships with a new lens and a new thing, and how does this work, and how does this new character of Drake's long lost brother, what does that do to the dynamic he has with all these other people, and how does that go?
I think that the game knows its strengths and it focuses on them, and I think that in a way even better than 2 or 3 did. 1 had its issues. 2 or 3 are both great games, but I think that 3 really tried to do something different with the whole backstory and like the slower, boring parts. I think this one nailed it. This one really did it, and it's to say that it's slower, I still think that it's very well paced. I think that the pace of this game is the I can only give it the highest praise.
To be clear, when I'm saying it was slower in the ramp and the build and all that stuff, I was never bored in any section. It's slower in the way that, I mean, I definitely, Colin, you can speak to this. I definitely feel and see the influences of The Last of Us, where it is.
Oh my God,
like,
The Last of Us is all over this game, dude.
I'm running through playing on Crushing right now, and now that I know where to go, I'm just like, oh my, I'm through levels in like 2 seconds. I was like, oh, right. But when I was playing, I was looking for every treasure, and I wanted to find every note, and I was trying to piece together, like, wait, what is this family dynamic of where I am, and how did these people talk to each other?
That's the big takeaway, actually, is and I know it's going to be contrived because a lot of people are going to say this, I think, and talk about this, is that The Last of Us is all over this game. And I didn't quite expect it. I actually thought that it was not going to be that way because it was going to be so obviously going to be that way because of Bruce and Neil kind of heading this. And of course, Bruce and Neil had made their bones in the Uncharted series on Uncharted 2. So it's not like this is their first Uncharted game.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in the dark, dire sense of the game. The game is way darker than the other games. There's
Grown up Uncharted. A somber Uncharted.
the most violent scene in any Uncharted game happens near the very beginning, and I was actually almost shocked by it. Not like in like but I'm like, wow, I can't believe they actually
your
showed
monocle
that.
fell out.
Yeah,
your
and,
opera glasses to the side.
So like there's a darker, more somber, melancholy tone to this game. But there's also a lot of gameplay elements in here that are from Uncharted or from The Last of Us as well.
Sure.
The cooperative dynamic between the two characters is Joel and Ellie to a T, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was straight code ripped out of The Last of Us and like refined for Uncharted 4. Right to the point where like, you know, Sam can be seen and it doesn't affect your game, just like Ellie can be seen because you can't really control
and the
that.
same thing with the optional conversations.
Yeah, the optional conversations,
them,
more collectibles, a deeper story, I think, too. And I think the big thing that The Last of Us influenced this game, although I don't know if it's direct or indirect, is that there's massive environments. And this is the first time that Uncharted has seen environments like this, where there are entire parts of maps you may never see. It's not to say the game's non-linear, because it's not. It's funneling you. And it does a really nice job of showing you where you need to go. But there are parts of the maps where I'm like there are a few times where I'm like, fuck, I went too far and I can't go back. Because like I missed this entire section of this map. You get to these
branching paths, and I was like, "That looks like the main path." And you go through, you're like, "Fuck, nope, this is the main path."
So the game's been broadened, and I think that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't. That makes the combat more dynamic, which I think is cool. And we can get into that in a little while. But I also don't think it feels like Uncharted. And I still don't think it feels like Uncharted. It's not nearly as hard as the other Uncharted games, and it's not, in my opinion. And I don't think there's as much combat.
There's definitely not.
Yeah.
I mean, especially early on and as it goes on, and that we were talking about it as we were first playing through. It was interesting how little use of guns there was for so long through the game. But I don't think that's a bad thing because Uncharted's gunplay isn't its
strength.
Isn't its strength, and I think that's what helps the pacing so much. Is I feel there's a better sense of progression with the weapons and with the whatever. Because in the other Uncharted, it's just like you start playing, you're shooting. Halfway through the game, you're facing these big tank characters, and it's like you need RPGs. In this, every single thing felt like it added to the plot in some sense. It added to the characters, and I always understood the motivations of the gameplay at hand.
Sure.
And I think that is they did it so well.
I remember the time I got to the first, like, oh right, I'm in an arena and there's all these guys coming in, and it's like what we're talking about. I remember Uncharted 1, right? Literally, that was every time, every battle, everything. And I got there, I was like, oh right, this is like, I feel like this is halfway through the game at the time. Like I've been playing for hours, and here I am in my first like Uncharted battle, or like where you, even now on Crushing, where it's coming so much quicker because I'm skipping cutscenes to get to like, oh, here is a section of 3 back-to-back-ish like giant groups of enemies. How do I take them out? What do I do to get through them?
But it's always different. I think Uncharted 1, if it's so long ago at this point, but it was very formulaic in the monster closet. Here's some climbing, monster closet. Here's some climbing, over and over and over, right? And I think 2 really kind of introduced the idea of a little bit more verticality of climbing while fighting. And then 3 kind of widened it out a bit. This one takes all of that and puts it together. Like during the monster closet parts where you're fighting a whole bunch of people, there is 10 different ways you can go about it.
Yeah.
And feels awesome. It feels better than any of the other Uncharted games. I think in terms of like, I always felt perfectly in control, whether it was melee or gunplay. I feel like gunplay was way better in 2. Melee was way better in 3. I think this one is best of both worlds with that. And I feel like this game was very inspired by games like Metal Gear Solid 5. Like you can see it in the sense of how it plays and stuff. And that's good because this was everything I wanted from that game done perfectly.
Sure. I feel like to 2 of the things you're both talking about, the environments are bigger. There's more branching paths. There's more things to do stuff.
Yeah.
But I would have gone, like when we went and did our Let's Play, right? And we went into that one area and it's a giant open area, and there's, we drove around forever, and then we got to a battle, and I was like, oh man, are there going to be a lot of parts like this game? And I was surprised there weren't. That that is like one of the only ones. Yeah, but I mean, even then it's like spoilers. It's not like that in terms of like this giant sprawl. And because like when they introduced the mechanic of marking the enemies, right? I was like, oh, that makes sense for these kind of battles. And then I felt like outside of that, I didn't really use it. And then even now that I'm on the Crushing Let's Play, where I'm getting my fucking ass kicked by some guy who sneaks up on me, you can't use the marking because it's like, they turn off all the like anything that would give you an edge in Crushing. And I'm like, well, fuck, why would?
Yeah, no, it's a bit underutilized as a function. I do think that they added a couple mechanics that I really, really enjoyed. The rope was awesome, and I can't believe that wasn't in Uncharted before. Like before, the rope would just be on the wall and you run by and kind of grab it. Being able to use it. Not all the time, because it is only when it's
in very specific incidences.
It always just felt right.
Like it's another pacing thing. I feel like I like the rope a lot, and I like the fact that when I would be playing, they in the beginning or before you're super used to it, you get to an area like it's almost that thing of like where you do that like the Nathan Drake hop, like what do I do next? And then it's like there's okay, and like you start. That's another pacing thing where I thought the rope get connected areas.
It's
better.
A really nice kind of free running style thing where you just keep going, and the slide. I thought the slide was so well done, and it sped things up in a really nice way.
Now you don't like it though, right?
No, I don't like either of those things.
I'm with Tim on them.
To me, like the rope thing doesn't make any sense contextually. He's been in 4 different games and he's never used this rope before, and now he's like, and I understand they introduce it in a certain way, but it's like,
I know,
like what the, and now you're just using it I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like this. Drake is like this established character. He's supposed to be this old man who doesn't really want to do this shit anymore. Now he's like fucking like flying around on a rope. I'm like, I don't know. I thought that was a strange and really way too oft used addition in my opinion. And the slide thing, I feel the same way. Like this was a new thing where I'm like, okay, this is cool. It's like when ledges break. It's like a joke in Uncharted. It's like they're using this. They're just spamming it constantly. I'm like, this isn't special. This isn't cool anymore. It might be a clever way for them to load the game or to get you guys into, it's like when you lift things with the triangle button and stuff like that. There might be a programming reason to use it so much. I don't think so though, because the game runs so well anyway. But to me, I was like, this is so weird because they're just throwing these new elements in, especially this new element that is the rope is very, as people will see, very story driven and how Drake learns how to use it and stuff like that. And so I think, I have no problem with it mechanically. I think it was cool. It was cool moments. It reminds me when we saw it at PSX and he was like roping. I'm like, this is really neat. But it doesn't seem like old man Drake on his last adventure, is gonna
I hear you, but
it's so
like,
weird.
For
Like
me,
contextually, it doesn't make any sense.
I hear you, but for me, it's all. I mean, that's the suspension of disbelief of video games, where I'm like, well, Elena looks different every game. She's always this blonde, pretty woman, but her face changes dramatically. We're like, but whatever.
But to me, like the weird dichotomy between the suspension, because Uncharted requires a suspension of disbelief in the sheer amount of people being killed. Although the volume's not that high in this game, I would say, not having gotten through the entire game yet, the volume must be way lower than the other games.
But it's still snap neck.
But
it's
still incredibly high. Several hundred people probably. But what I found was that the game was way more grounded.
Yep.
And I don't know what happens at the end, but the game is way more grounded, and suspension of disbelief is very rare in the game, except for these strange mechanics. I feel like Drake doesn't struggle enough. I know you have
Drake. I feel like that must have been the hardest thing for Naughty Dog, Neil and Bruce, whoever. I guess Josh too, who wrote it. We should give him a nod too. But the teeter-totter of trying to make it more grounded, more real, but not lose what Uncharted is, which is Drake's this superhero action guy. I'm with you. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, to me, it just it didn't resonate thematically with the game, which is weird because it's like, I don't know. Neither does him knowing how to use like an assault rifle. Why does he know how to use this? Well, he's killed 1,000 people at this point, I guess, so he would know. But yeah, so to me, I had like both those things are cool, and if they were just introduced sparsely or like maybe just used once or twice, that would have been cool. But like, it's just like I'm sliding down things every 5 seconds sometimes. I'm like, this is so stupid. Like, why is this happening over and over and over again? It never happened in any of the other games. Like
there was no place to slide in the other game.
I don't know. To me, like it seems like all right. So the weird thing about Uncharted 4 to me that, and I don't know if it's because Amy, I don't know. Here's an important thing about this is that I noticed in the writing credits in the beginning, Neil and Josh are given the writing credits. Amy's not given any credit at all. Now, I don't know. Can you guys speak about when the game's over? Is
the
she
end
in there?
credits, she's given a very beautiful standalone screen of thank you for all your contributions to Uncharted.
Because what I wonder is what is here from her game and what isn't here from her game. And it seems like because they didn't give her writing credit that it's basically not her game at all.
You would think that, I'll let you continue. You'd think, right, that they probably blew up her story, rewrote the story, but used we know we're doing a pirate thing. We know we have to get to Libertalia. We know we have to work on these kind of things. No, they've mentioned that before.
Oh, okay.
That's from trailers and stuff.
Okay, I've just not watched anything, so I don't know.
No, I hear you.
So to me, like it's a fantastic game. It's a must-play game. Like I think people should absolutely play it. I think Neil and Bruce and the team did a fantastic job on this game. It doesn't feel thematically like an Uncharted game so far. It feels like it's another game. Like it's a different game. And it's because of the darker theme. It's because of these weird mechanics. And I don't know like what was in there and what wasn't in there. So it's hard to like...
Sure.
It's hard to know if it's just me. It's hard to know if it's just maybe was Amy's intent in the beginning and they just steered it in that direction. It's hard to know if they steered it in a different direction. But the game doesn't feel congruent with the trilogy on PS3. And that to me is neither here nor there. But it could work out well or it could work out not so well. Like Infamous Second Son didn't feel like an Infamous game, like thematically, and it made it a worse game. But I don't know necessarily that Uncharted 4 is a worse game. I can't speak to that yet.
See, the thing about
I have to think about it.
Exactly. And we're going to talk about, I know, on the Gamescast in terms of like how we rank them all. But what I've kicked around before to Tim is in that we can finally talk about it in open public is the fact of like playing Uncharted 4 and stuff. I'm like, okay, this is like I'm saying, this is a melancholy experience to some extent, right? Like, don't get me wrong. Jokes are there and it's fun and we're jumping over a climber and it's a great time. We're making one-liners while we kill people. Awesome. But there's still this weight to it. And for me, finishing it, now playing it again and talking about like, well, how does it rank and start trying to negotiate in my head, I start getting this spot of like, for me, it's no longer these individual experiences. Like is some of this melancholy, it's a somber experience. It's sad because I know when they show Elena for the first time, this is my last time seeing Elena for the first time, that I know this is Nate's last adventure no matter how it ends. Like there's something to it on my level too. And when it finishes, no spoilers for the ending, it's such a definitive end cap that it's like, it no longer feels anymore like, how can we compare this to 2 or 3 or it feels like, and this is a terrible analogy, but we're building a silo and now, or even a space shuttle, and now here's the nose of it, right? And like we have this complete product, or I guess a dildo. But anyways, we're building something with a definitive cap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean I totally agree with you. I feel like this game is undeniably better if you play the other games. I think that's true with all of them, but I think that this really is I don't want to say greatest hits. That's not what I'm trying to get at, but it is the sum of all the best parts put together where it focuses on the best gameplay elements. It focuses on the best type of set pieces. It focuses on the story and the characters more than any of the other ones. And I think that it gives us the characters we want. It gives us significant time with each of the characters that we love. And it gives us hints and nods at all the other characters that we love that we don't necessarily need that much more time with. And I think that they were very wise about how they divvied up the one-on-one time you have with different characters.
Sure. And to that point, one of the things about it for me is the fact that it is kind of the answer to what I've always asked, right? I was always the guy who every time they debuted into Uncharted and I went to talk to him like, why are Nate and Elena apart? What the hell's happening? Like, it feels like you're always hitting this reset button, right? Where this is the game of like, all right, here are all the consequences, and here's how this life would play out, and here's how these people interact and feel around each other based on the fact of we're not going to do the Indiana Jones thing where we just start the game and I'm Nate and I'm on an adventure. Like, all right, here's like the repercussions.
I'm surprised you got that's your interpretation of it though, because again, not having gotten to the end, but almost getting to the very end, there's just not much time left. I actually think that two characters in particular have been super underserved in the game, and
characters that we've seen or not seen.
That we've seen.
Okay.
And I'm not talking about Cutter or something like that.
That's
it's
what
like,
I was.
I feel like the characters that they spend a lot of time. Like, I don't want to. It's hard for me to talk about this because it sounds like I don't like the game and I actually love it. It's just like I think that it deserves criticism in the sense that. Nate, it's all about Nate, really, at the end of the day. And we spend a ton of time with Nate, obviously, in the game. And we get to know him and stuff like that. But his brother is this new character who's like really kind of forced on us. And we just get him way more than I would have wanted other characters. And so to me, I'm like, every time he's on the screen, I'm like, this is great. I care about this story. I care about what's happening. Yet I know like what you're saying is like, this is it. Like every moment that he's on screen, but Sully's not on screen, it's a fucking problem for me. Like every time
I hear you.
Elena's not that's a problem for me because we're running out of time. I really feel like I don't want to get too spoiled.
That's the thing. I want to put a pin in this because I want you to talk about this when you finish it. I want you to talk about how it all ends because the way they put the dildo cap on this silo that looks like a dildo. That's really.
But having been almost 13 hours into the game and really getting crumbs. Like of some of these characters is like, I'm like, well, that's a little weird to me. I know you want me to care about his brother, but I kind of don't,
Man.
And that to me is like not as much as I care about these characters I've been with for 10 years.
Right.
Over 4 games. This is the 5th game really. So it's like, I don't mind that X, Y, and Z is not in the game. And there are characters that are not in the game, at least not yet for me, that I'm not really super shocked aren't in the game. But to me, I'm like, well, I like this new character, but why are we trying to find resonance of a character that's just introduced to me when he's only an introduction to the past, as opposed to these characters that really were there in the past? I don't know. That was a major issue
want you
for me.
Sit on that egg and see how it hatches on the spoiler cast.
I
Monday.
absolutely loved Sam.
Yeah.
I thought he was a great character, and I think that he really added a dimension to Nathan that was necessary to make this game move as well as it did and have as complete of a story and make you feel for those other characters the way that I ended up feeling for them. I feel like he gave a lot of motivation to go on another adventure. I think that there's a lot of stuff that, and again, we'll get way more into the spoilers later, but I think that he was an amazing addition that I would put up there. Him in this one game, I think earned him a spot that is equal to Elena and Sully, who are the only other, and I love Chloe, but like even she could be there or not be there, but it's like one of the things have to be there.
One of the things to talk about, Chloe or Cutter or whatever, right? Those characters are very Uncharted 1 through 3. They are very not stereotypical, right? But what you see is what you get. We're not into them. Because granted, there's not a game dedicated to them, and that's the benefit of Sam, I think. Where for a long time I was like, all right, this guy's fine. It sucks he's putting his brother in this situation, and then like the game plays out and things happen, and by the end of it, and really when I replayed it again after the beating it, it was like, okay, I like him more. Now knowing how this is all going to end up and then going back and playing through it again and getting to see how they interact as brothers, that gave me more to him.
It's about family, and I think that there's nothing more important to that. There's nothing that resonates with you as much as family does. And I think that it's such a easy way to start a plot, but it's a difficult way to really kind of own that. And I think it does beautifully. I think that Uncharted 3, one of my biggest issues with it was I felt that and we disagree on this, but I think that a lot of the flashback stuff was really awkward and weird and just felt like, all right, we're trying to be different than Uncharted 2, which good on them. You know, it's good that they tried something different, but it didn't click with me. And I think that the whole Sully thing, it did build him as a father figure in a really important way.
Yeah.
But I feel like this game handles us dealing with that a lot better.
Okay. If we're talking about characters, Sam, sure, there's a lot to talk about him, more spoilery. I want to give a shout out to how much I love Nadine.
Oh, great. Yeah.
I fucking could not get over how much I love Nadine. Every time she was on screen, I was like, fuck, I want more of this character.
And Rafe
she is
too.
awesome. Yeah, and that's the thing.
Them together, I thought it was a great villain dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. This was a cool team of bad guys to have you go up against or whatever. Because again, like you're talking about, their emotions, their motivations make sense, right? Like Rafe's story's cool. I like how it is. No spoilers for his whole thing. But Nadine is just a character as like this, like she's the most like badass chick in the Uncharted universe, let alone probably the most badass character in the universe, where nobody would possibly want to fuck with her. And when they try, they lose all the time. You're like, fuck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. That goes back to what I was saying about this game. Really, every single thing feels like it feeds into itself and has a reason for happening. There's always motivation. I love the use of her character, and like she has the army of people, right? And they have a mission without spoiling anything. Like they are doing something actively throughout the game, which is causing things to happen. It gives a real reason for why there's a shit ton of people that you're fighting.
Yeah.
And I feel like it ties it into the story in a way that the other games did, but it was more of a throwaway thing here. Whereas this, it's a constant, there's a reason everywhere you go, they're there. And there's a reason that there's barricades waiting for you, or like monster closets. Like that was a trap, that was a plan. Whereas before it's just, there's really just dudes in the jungle there.
You found them. They found you.
Yeah, I just think that it was...
All 30 of these guys were hanging out at this one spot.
And then to talk about the pacing and the motivation, I feel like this game kept me doing different things constantly in a way that you look at Uncharted 1 to this and it's just mind-blowing, where you it's more of a story-based thing with the choices and this and that. Then you get into a gunfight. Then you get into a climbing parkour thing. Then you're in a vehicle. Then whatever. I need to give a shout out to the underwater stuff.
Oh yeah, you love the swimming.
This is the best handling of underwater anything in video games. The moment we started scuba diving, I was just like, this feels natural. And I think it's because they made it really fast. And that's why I liked the rope and the sliding so much, is they gave the mechanics speed. So it wasn't slowing us down, and it wasn't like more ways to, just keep going across, press X until you find the right thing to go on. And man, I am impressed. And the underwater shit was beautiful. The transition between being above water, going under it, and like just back and forth trying to breathe, like it gave me that same sense that I got playing Uncharted 1 when he first walked out and was dripping his clothes and stuff, where it's like, man, the attention to detail and just the beauty of this game is overwhelming at so many points.
Right. Yeah. The environments are great. I think obviously the VO stuff's great, but the orchestral score, great, right there with you.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
It's it's like piano thing that they've been doing so much with like all the like Ghostbusters and Star Wars, or like the minimalistic piano thing. Like hearing the Uncharted theme in that is just goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. They did a great job.
Yeah, I think that, presentationally, the game's unrivaled. And I think that that's what's really special about it. I was playing it last night, and Erin has no context for video games at all. Like, just doesn't really play them or know them.
She's
at all.
Amish. Just came to the new world.
She uses electricity, and she'd exclaimed, she was like really into it, like wanted me to keep playing and playing and playing. I'm like, that's cool that you want to see more of this, but she also exclaimed that she didn't know video games could. This is like what video games are, and I want to almost tell her like, well, this is the epitome of what a video game can be.
You should have started here.
This isn't what video games are, because this is in terms of the presentation, in terms of the graphics and the environments. Like, they really, what I thought was really cool, and I think it's a nice self-congratulatory like pat on the back that they do, is they give you lots of ways to enjoy the graphics, like the vistas, which they do in other games, but they like really be like, look at how beautiful. Like, we're going to make sure you see.
Yeah. Sam's going to ask you, can't beat this view and stuff like that.
I think I really feel like the game just does, like, it's such a step above everything else in that respect, that, and it's not only about the way the game moves, it's not only about the way Drake like slinks through grass and it reacts to him, or like the petal, like, flower petals and leaves are like floating in the air, or like the rain effects. Like, there's that one chapter where it's pouring rain. I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe how good this. It's so funny to me. Like, this is the PS4. How can you, like, it seems like Naughty Dog's doing a nice job of extracting power out of the PS4. It's like it seems to me like.
But imagine what it would look like on 4.5.
So to me, it's like I was really quite intrigued, and no matter my complaints about the game, I even have complaints about Uncharted 3 because no game's perfect, but there was like plenty of crumbs to make me want to keep playing the game. Like I've been playing it most of the day, like trying to get through it and just really enjoying it. And the one thing that I to your earlier point is that like I was very self-aware in the first few chapters where I'm like, this is it. Like, I know this is the end. I kind of just kept lying to myself being like, they'll do another one, but they're not going to. And, to me, like I actually cognizantly didn't play it fast. Like and you guys kind of went through it really quickly. And I'm like, I don't want to like, I was playing like a chapter or two at a time for like a few days where I'm like, I don't really want this to end. Now I have to because we're up against the wall in terms of our embargo and stuff like that. But I really feel like the game sounds great. Like the incidental chatter, like the little quips that they say, like the writing's really on point.
Yeah.
And I just want to say like, I just don't understand how no one even gets close to this in other games that I've ever played. It's not even close. No one's gotten close to Uncharted 2 or 3. No one's gotten close to The Last of Us, and no one's gotten close to Uncharted 4. No one does it. And I don't know like how like Uncharted 2 at this point is 7 years old, and like still no one can like do like these funny quips back and forth or this beautiful presentation or the fucking attention to the minute details that make you want to play, and it catches a person's eye that doesn't play games. It makes them want to sit and watch and ask questions and all and engage in the game. Naughty Dog is unrivaled at this. This is what The Last of Us did so well, and I actually feel like Uncharted 4 might even do it better. Because again, there is a lot of The Last of Us in this game, and so I don't know. I really got to give them credit for that. Like I don't understand what the fuck they're on over there compared to all these other studios, and it's not an insult to other studios necessarily. They're just way ahead of everyone.
I think honestly, it's the fact that it is directed. I mean, I'm assuming this. It's directed as a movie. It's directed as like a film, maybe not as a movie, but as a film. As a film would be created, where every single camera angle, every single line of dialogue, every single time a character talks to anything else or interacts with anything, there's thought put behind how that camera spins and why it's happening. And the acting, honestly, it is next level shit. It's like I'm watching these characters and I'm not thinking they're video game characters.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching these cutscenes, and also the difference between cutscene graphics and gameplay graphics, it's the same engine, and it's mind blowing. Like it's just it is next level. It is the epitome. It's such a step above everything else. And like,
the amount of times in the second playthrough I've hit start to skip cinematic and it's not a cinematic, and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's really crazy. But I got to give a shout out to the acting, because no matter which character it was, I was completely engaged in every single thing they were saying.
Back to, design and pacing, I want to give a shout out to the puzzles too. Like they're fun, they're interesting.
They're not too hard.
They don't exactly. They're not annoying. It's not. I know you always had a big problem with like
Uncharted
the sundial one, right?
Yeah.
Like that isn't there, and like it is actually. This is a great time to introduce this. The redone notebook, like pulling out the notebook and having it like not be a select button that you like select do this. Like you pop open, you have a real notebook, and like there's the one puzzle where you have to use the notebook, right, and pieces of paper, and you're spinning pieces of paper. And I was like, this is fun. Like this is cool. I like this. And it's not hard. It is like, it's like find some stuff to figure out how to do it, but it's not like, how the fuck am I going to do this?
And that's what I'm saying. This game does everything the other games do better in all those little ways. And I think the puzzles is a perfect example. When you guys beat this game, I think you'll understand how much better these puzzles are in terms of pacing. And I think the pacing is what makes all of this better, because it's not that it needs to be hard. It needs to be fun. It needs to keep you moving and keep you wanting to get to the next thing. It's satisfying. Like this game is satisfying.
Very much so.
And I do think the one, to credit, Sharon Druckmann on the writing, like specifically the writing, like the story. I think the story, I have not seen the end of it yet, but the way it ramps in the teens in the chapters or whatever, I'm like, this story is actually excellent. And it's political and it's grounded and it's fucking, it's just way different, I actually think, than all the other all the other plots in Uncharted games. It's still like fantastic in its own way, but I was like, this is fucking rad. Like there are certain scene I can't wait to talk about in the spoiler cast, because there are just certain chapters and certain scenes where I'm like, this is really fucking cool. This is intriguing. This is again, there's like a weird through line of politics and
I feel like it's coming back, and it comes back to the fact that like Rafe is a grounded character. His motivations make sense. He is not just Lazarevich who wants blue sap. He is not just whoever the one bad guy was in Uncharted 1 that all we ever remember is Raja or whatever, and then there's the other guy. And like even Marlowe was like cool, but it wasn't the same thing. Like this is like an equal on a playing field, and how do they play with each other?
I liked Marlowe, but
I did too.
but I don't. Yeah, I agree. Lazarevich sucked, and Guerrero, whatever. I don't know what the fuck that guy.
Yeah, well, he was like the henchman, wasn't there? Was always like some old white
white
dude. There was some old
archaeologist,
white
yeah.
guy that shot Sully. I don't remember what his deal was.
So like, yeah, I agree with you that the story, like, so the other thing that the writing does really well is pays homage to the other games, and there's one scene in particular that we'll talk about in the Gamescast that I thought was really, really. Or not in the Gamescast, but in the Spoilercast, where I thought it was like really cool.
Dude, there's so many. This whole game is like that.
And that's the one thing where I remember Nick was saying, like, should I just play Uncharted 4? And like, I want to reiterate, you'd be a fucking fool to play this game before you play the other 3 games. There's so much that's going to be lost on you, like both overt and not, like, so both like kind of small and very overt that you're going to miss. Like, you must play the other games before you play this game.
Yeah.
You'll have no context for the relationship between Drake and Sam, and you'll certainly have no context for all the little odes that they talk about over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's
don't be a fool.
There's
like, play
Golden
the
Abyss
others.
references in there. It's like,
the
yeah.
thing is, I can't wait to talk about this on the spoiler stuff. But this game, I feel like the story is very meta, and I feel like they succeeded. It didn't ever come off as corny. Like, I feel like there's so many elements of it that we're supposed to relate to Nathan. Like him going on that one last adventure. It is us going on one last Uncharted adventure, and they're very aware of that, and they make us aware of it, but in a way that is satisfying and makes us feel good, and not just kind of. I leave this game not even necessarily yearning for more, and I mean that in a good way. This feels complete.
You're satiated.
Yes, I'm like, man, like this can't get better.
See, it's interesting because like, what did I text you last night? I'm like, do you still have my Uncharted collection? Because I'm playing through and I'm gonna platinum this game, and I'm like, fuck, I want to do the other ones now.
Yeah.
I want to go back into this.
Yeah, and I had just I platinumed Drake's Fortune twice and platinumed Among Thieves twice, and then only platinumed Drake's Deception once. But having played them recently, I feel like it reminded me that those games really are great. Like, those games really are like the cream of the crop game. And it just, Uncharted really is the epitome of it, not necessarily gameplay, but design and aesthetic and storytelling and like what I was telling Aaron, what a game can be. But this isn't what games are.
Yeah.
Like this is what a Naughty Dog game is. And I know it's like gushing praise, people are going to lost fanboys. I don't really give a fuck. Like, Naughty Dog's way better than everyone else in the industry at doing this stuff. It's not even close.
Yeah.
And I just don't get it. I just don't understand like how they do it. And this comes from someone who wrote like a 60,000 word article on the history of the studio and really knows that studio, knows the people there. And I still don't get it. Like, and that's what I've been taking away every time when I'm playing this game, inch by inch, minute by minute, hour by hour. I'm like, what the hell's going on over there? Like, this game, it's weird. It's just weird. I know it takes time to make these kinds of games. It makes me like I'm sad about Uncharted ending, but I'm also really excited about The Last of Us 2 now, because it's like their games are just really actually getting better. Do I think this game's better than The Last of Us? I don't know. I haven't beaten it yet. Is it better than Uncharted 3? Even again, I don't know. Well, I'll have that conclusion when we talk about it on future videos. But from my own personal take on it, but even if it's not that good, it could still very well be a masterpiece.
This is something I talked to you about, and I know you're. I don't want to spoil anything for you either. But do you feel there were the big blockbuster moments,
Action set piece moments?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard to talk about because, when you think about Uncharted 1, I guess there's not really, you don't talk about that. You talk about the supernatural twist.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. The one that got revealed. Yeah. The U-boat, stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's that. When you talk about Uncharted 2,
Train.
There's the train, there's the hotel
collapsing or whatever,
which
you're on
I
it,
think
yeah.
that's my personal favorite out of any of this series.
Yeah.
You talk about Uncharted 3, there's obviously the
plane,
the plane
the
and
boat.
the boat.
Yeah.
Oh, the boat's the best.
And
Love
this game, it has those moments, but I feel like they're more just kind of, it's very similar to a Fast and Furious movie. Like, I keep saying that, and I'm not saying that as an insult at all. And if anyone takes it that way, like, I'm sorry, but it's just like this Uncharted is Fast and Furious. Like, it's just a bunch of, let's globetrot the world and have crazy action set pieces and have a bunch of characters that you care about. Cool. And I think that this game gives you more consistently. None of them necessarily reach those heights. But I mean, that's like comparing Fast and Furious 6 to 7 in terms of like, well, they jumped through skyscrapers versus they, jumped through a plane. It's like, it's hard.
The thing I took away, and this isn't a spoiler as much as my opinion, everybody stick with me, is that the E3 demo, right? if you remember when we saw the E3 demo at the press conference, it ends with, we've driven through, we're on the run from that giant truck. Nate and Sully are all over the place. Then Nate throws his lineup, gets off the Jeep, slams in the thing, and it cuts. And then we went behind closed doors and saw the rest of it getting dragged behind the cars. Your car's on fire.
It was so fucking cool. That part of the game was so fucking cool.
And my problem is, and this is just, when I was thinking about it today when I was getting ready for this, is the fact that like, that was the coolest moment of the game, and since I had seen it at E3, it wasn't as cool here. Because at E3, I did the whole like at our E3 show where I laid on the ground and like reenacted it for Nick and shot 2 fans and stuff like that. Not in real life, and that excitement was lost to me this time. Where I was coming down the hill, I'm like, ooh, man, Bruce was driving better than I was. Ah, crap! I hit. Okay, now this is gonna happen. That's gonna happen. All right, it's over. Oh, good. I finally get to see Elena again. What is happening? Tell me what's happening there. And so, with that done, that was the big moment. You know what I mean?
That was not my favorite part.
Really?
For sure. Yeah. No. That's
I want
up
to talk
there.
to you off
We'll talk later.
There's one other moment that I think is really like a moment like that.
There's good moments, don't get me wrong. There's 2 that I think of not the same sense of scale. I can only imagine if they could have hidden that for the entire time, what you would have been thinking as you're careening down this hill, and then like you're running out of road, and then you're getting drugged, and then you're in the fire, and like.
Well, it reminded me a lot of Uncharted 2. I think it's 2 when the truck's chasing you.
You're running down the AK behind you. Yeah.
That was awesome, and I feel like this game does this a lot, where it's like there's similar set pieces just on a PS4 level,
sure,
on a wider, more open level, and I think that they succeeded really well in upping the stakes, even if it. Like, honestly, how do you top that stuff? Like, they really kind of did everything.
And I'm not saying this is a huge negative. I think when I was playing it and I was waiting for what's the next big okay, I've seen this. Like it felt like that, but looking back at it, no. What I remember is from our Let's Play when we're driving around with Nate and Sam, right? Or Nate, Sam, and Sully, and like when you go off the bridge, you land on the bridge, and they're making cracks about the bridge, and like. I was so fucking happy with Naughty Dog. I didn't see it during our Let's Play because I think we were talking over it and doing stuff. But when I pull up the thing, I'm like, I'm gonna investigate it, and I start to climb out as like Sam's like, so Victor, and I'm like, no, fuck the conversation. And then you come back and sit back down, and it was like as you were saying, and he's like, oh right, sorry. I was like, oh my god, what a brilliant.
That was
move.
Very brilliant. It's funny you said that because I noticed that too. Like the first time I was like, oh, I thought it was like part of the thing, and then I'm like, that's actually really fucking cool because I'm so sick of missing these goddamn conversations because I get somewhere too quickly or whatever.
It's a farewell tour. I want to say goodbye to everybody.
The one thing noted about these open worlds and stuff about, well, it's not an open world, but these bigger environments is that there are things you can miss, like the optional conversation bubbles, like you disappear if you go too far and stuff like that. And I'm like, that kind of sucks. Like you can't. Like the design is not quite on point with some of that stuff because it's disappointing when you go too far. Like the game needs to do a better job of letting you know that you've gone too far because that's not quite the way Uncharted was played in the past. So
100%.
So I think that the game needed to tell you that a little bit.
But
better.
They do a great job of it when you get out after you beat it and you come back and you go through your chapters. It'll show you have this many of these treasures, journal entries, optional conversations.
And I do like to that point, like treasures and the strange relic and stuff like that were the only collectibles in the other games and. I like that there's like way more now. There's way more. It very Last of Us like just examining things for no reason in the and writing things in the journal and finding letters and notes and then finding the treasures.
You're talking about immersion. The fact that now Drake, he finds something and adds it to his journal. You see him, draw it in there or whatever. It's
a very finely made game, and I have problems with some of the mechanics, but other than that, and some of the like. It's like really not a big deal.
I mean, that's my thing is I have a ton of criticisms of the game. I just feel like none of them are even worth really getting into because the game is so good overall and such a level above everything else. My criticisms are that I don't really love the open worldy areas. Like I feel like it does kind of slow the game down more than everything else does, and I feel like there's a handful of them that I'm just like it's fine. And having said that, I think they handle vehicle control better than any other game similar to this ever. Like the vehicles feel like a character and that's insane. But I didn't love it. I felt like it slowed it down and I started feeling myself get frustrated playing it. Also, I just feel like like you were talking about earlier, the marking people, like Metal Gear Solid 5 style, was underutilized. I think that would have been really cool, but we never really got to see that turn into something. And I mean, my biggest criticism is in terms of Last of Us being a big inspiration for this. There was a bit too much. Here's a ladder. Someone else grab the ladder, pull it down, and here's a box. Go find the box so you can whatever. And that was straight out of Last of Us. And I'm just like, I just feel like it was an overused mechanic, just in the sense that everything else I thought was so perfectly paced and balanced.
I like that they were there, and even like when we're talking about they're overusing sliding or they're using rope too much for Colin's opinion, right? Like now that they have so much more in the toy box, they get, whereas like Uncharted 2 was literally like everywhere you went, all right, jump to me and I'm gonna grab your arm, even though it's skin on skin and it's raining. I'm like, what the hell's going on? That's all they had, right? So yeah, I understand it, but another thing too, this is the Uncharted where I fell to my death accidentally the least. You know, usually I'd have that thing where I'd turn around and jump off the wall and fucking fly to no. I'm like, motherfucker. I thought it was telegraphed way better this time around. Like I wasn't getting myself, it happens every so often, but not really getting myself into situations where I'm dropping too far and then falling or jumping out of that. I liked the spike. I wish they used that more. I thought that was great. Yeah, I thought that was underutilized because it gets introduced late in the game or whatever.
Yeah, but it is very cool and it does add an extra level. And I think all those little things together do create this rhythm that you get going with the controller.
Yeah, totally.
Where you're kind of moving through and it just feels really, really nice. The other criticism I have is that I had this during the Let's Play too. The rope hitting L1, like you start going like this with the rope, but that does nothing. Like you can only use the rope when there's something to attach to. So it's like, why even
let me pull it out?
Yeah. And I kind of wish that I could use the rope a bit more just fluidly wherever I wanted to.
Sure.
I don't know how they would do that, but I just think it's weird that you could do something with the rope that didn't do anything.
Maybe they're making the Spider-Man game. It's not Circle Mush. This was it. This was it all along.
Yeah, I don't know. I think people should take their time with it, really enjoy, the set pieces and the graphics and the voice acting and the little things. Like take your time. This is not a game to blow through. Definitely not a game to blow through. I think, obviously you should buy it.
Yeah. And you talking about the set pieces and do they live up to the other ones? I think that maybe in concept, they don't, just in the sense of it's not like a Twitter, this is what happens and this is why it's awesome. Like the train's awesome because blank. But I feel like I was 10 out of 10 having the feeling of Uncharted during those moments where it gives me that same feeling of the opening of Super Metroid, where there's that countdown clock and you feel stressed in a good way of like that exhilaration of like, oh my God, over and over. And I feel like there's so many set pieces in this game that gave me that just exhilaration through me like the entire time. And I feel like people are going to look back at this and not necessarily talk about the train sequence or the boat sequence, but talk about other things that happen in the game.
This moment in the game, this conversation in the game
that are just unrivaled in terms of this franchise and video games, period.
Well, we liked Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. What did you think, ladies and gentlemen? Once you do have it, let us know in the comments, tweet at us, whatever you want to do. Go, of course, to the spoiler cast. Watch it there. Worth pointing out, I played about an hour of multiplayer. I dug it. It's more Uncharted multiplayer. A whole bunch of bells and whistles tossed on top of it. I'm excited to play more of it when it comes out, so I'll be doing that. But yeah, so Monday, we'll put up a whole bunch of stuff. The spoiler cast, a couple different videos, including gameplay stuff, and a whole bunch of goofy things. Then the Gamescast, we're going to have a topic on there talking about comparing all of them.
Yeah, comparing all the Uncharteds.
So there's plenty of reasons to subscribe to youtube.com/Kinda Funny Games if you're an Uncharted fan. And if you're not, I don't know how you got to the end of this video. We've been sitting here for 48 minutes just giving Naughty Dog a blowjob. And you stuck it out just to leave hateful comments, which I appreciate. Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.